Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
I love GTD, getting things done. I mean, figuring out a workflow and managing parts of your life uh, in a much more effective manner than you may have been used to. My inbox is pretty much my task list. It's how I get things done. I like a clean inbox, and I can think of only one time in the past year that's been absolutely empty, and that was just last week. And now I've got it down to today. Oh, great. People keep emailing me. My email is chris@pirillo.com, by the way. I've got it down to, well, after tonight, it'll be down to 2, I hope. And largely because I've got to wait on a couple of other things to happen before I can respond to those messages. That's how I get things done. Everything I have exists in my inbox. I also use a program on Mac OS X called Things. That's the name of it, and it's not final yet, but they're allowing people to beta test it for them, and we'll give them a discount when it is final. Very clean, very simple, very elegant. It's based on tagging, if you're familiar with that. No, Things without a Z, like an S. Just call it Things. And tagging is something where instead of filing it in a folder, you can file it in a folder, but then if you say the keywords associated with this task or this idea are black, button, remote, control, Canon. I'm looking at my remote control here. So I would tag this remote control with those words, those keywords. And that way, if I can't remember the task or I want to categorize the task, I can categorize by tag, not just by folder. This could help you stay more organized because tasks just aren't good in and of themselves or necessarily in general categories. This is why there's been such a flood of GTD applications, getting things done, both on the web or on your desktop, quite possibly. I've got an email here from Tyler Jones on how to manage your inbox to help you GTD. And Tyler may be a little out of the ordinary here, and I mean that in the nicest way, because he starts out his email and says, I receive about 220 emails a day. He says, I know that's nothing compared to what you get, Chris, but it's a lot for us normal folk. And sometimes I find it hard to manage my inbox. Over time, I made these tips for managing my email more efficiently, and I thought that I would pass them along. So these are some really good tips, I thought. Number 1, send replies in bulk. For you Yahoo Mail users, I'm not talking about bulk as in spam. I mean, group your replies to email. I should say a set of emails. If several people have the same question, send the same message to those multiple email addresses. This will save time, and it will save you a lot of stress. And that's true. This is one of the reasons why we have common responses in our chat room. We kind of get tired of people asking the same questions over and over again, like, what are those lights? And, what is the chair? Where'd you get this? Where'd you get that? So if you type in certain requests, it will respond. So we're able to make a bulk response without necessarily wearing our fingers down to stumps. And, the same thing happens in your inbox. If you get common questions, another shortcut with sending replies in bulk, set up a signature. Most email programs will allow you to have multiple signatures. And if I get a common question, instead of just typing it in all the time, I'll just apply a signature to it, and I just select that signature. It automatically pulls into the email message, and then I've saved time. So you can use multiple signatures as kind of like a virtual clipboard that you can take around with you. It's a good tip. Number 2, publicly address common questions. Also, if several people have the same question, you should publicly address that issue in a blog, a FAQ, etc. This will cut down on the email you receive with that question. And to a certain degree. Many people have asked if we have a FAQ for the chat room, an FAQ, frequently asked questions. We don't have one, and just because it takes time to set up, time to maintain, and quite honestly, people ignore that anyway. Anytime, it's just much more convenient to ask someone the answer to a question than it is to look it up. I mean, hey, even I know that. It's not always the most useful mechanism for learning things, but it's useful for keeping things organized, having a frequently asked questions, a FAQ sitting somewhere. Just depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I always like hitting it out with blog posts and just assume that people were going to read it, but they never do. They email me anyway, which I just tell them to look at the blog or come to the chat room. So if you get that response from me, that's why. 3, and this is an important one, don't reply to rude people. If someone is being rude, don't reply to them. This is a waste of time, as your response will either be ignored or will trigger another rude response. If someone continues to be rude, block their email address. I've never really blocked email addresses, but it's gotten to the point where a lot of people keep asking me the same question over and over again. I mean, the same people ask me the same question over and over again, and I just don't respond. I stop responding. So if I've stopped responding to a lot of your emails, it's because you've sent me like more than the average person usually sends me emails, and it's like I'll answer like 1 or 2, and I'll be as cordial as I possibly can. If I've read your message if I respond with a smiley face or something like that, but I cannot. Some people get mad when I respond with a smiley face. I mean, they've written something very, very deep and just amazing, like a top 5 list that we may have done before, or just good that I might be able to use, might not be able to use. But they, pour their heart and soul into this email, and I respond with something short, and sometimes they get mad. And I said, why do you get mad? I read it, I validated it. I just don't have time to respond to it like I would like to respond to it, just because it's easier to respond in voice than it is to respond, that's the sound of a virtual keyboard. You may even hear it when I'm typing on this thing. You'll hear me doing that. But rude people, if you don't get a response, it doesn't mean anything. If you do get a response that isn't to your satisfaction, I apologize. And I get rude emails all the time, and usually the rude emails that I like responding to are the ones that people have poured their heart and soul into and have made into a personal attack, and those I'll respond to with a smiley face. That really upsets them. I don't delete them, I respond to them with a smiley face. Because it just kind of deflates their argument. They're calling me a moron or whatever, and I just smile. Nothing I can do about it, it's just email. Number 4, have a good spam blocker. This is also very important. No junk should get through, or as little junk as possible. Gmail on the web is a good example, and Thunderbird on the desktop is also good. In fact, even if you do not use Gmail for your primary email, you can route your regular old email, any old email account, so long as I think it's POP3 or IMAP, through Gmail. Use Google's spam filter, and then receive it back out on your desktop how you normally do. That's how a lot of people have spam management. They use Gmail's filters because they're so strong. I tried that. It was before Google had IMAP, and it was a little difficult to manage the spam because I got a lot of spam. And quite honestly, I didn't realize how much I needed a server-side spam blocker until I got onto my current email system, which is an Exchange account. A lot of it happens on the back end. And some of it would happen on the front end, but I think Outlook's junk mail filter, bad. Mail apps, junk mail filter on OS X does an okay job. It does a better job. There are far fewer false positives than there were in Outlook, that's for sure. If you can, though, for spam blocking, try to get one that's on the server, because that's less that you have to go through on the desktop. And there are going to be, good emails that get trapped. You just kind of have to watch the trends over time and, follow up with people if you haven't heard from them in a while. And, if they don't respond, maybe your message wasn't that interesting, or they just can't respond, or they just haven't had time yet. Number 5, make your responses short and simple. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Don't type extremely long responses to email. Chances are the person you're sending to won't read through it. Just explain the basics in a sentence or two, no more than a paragraph, and hit send. However, be careful with your wording. You don't want to seem curt, as this will probably provoke a rude response. That's kind of what happened to me. But email is good, for lengthy communications about serious topics. I mean, sometimes email is good, sometimes IM is good, sometimes chatting is good. Sometimes blogging is good, sometimes it just all kind of depends. If you are going to send an email, and especially a lengthy email, spell check, break it out into different paragraphs. The emails that I tend not to respond to are the ones that are just like one long paragraph, I can't do it. I can't do it. Because it's just a jumbled mess of just words, and my mind, I just can't, unless I need to, I can't focus on it. Keeping your inbox clean is a big part of getting things done, because the longer you sit on your inbox, with these messages piling one on top of the other, the more likely it's going to be that you're going to miss something very, very important. And for this reason and this reason alone, every email client worth anything has filtering. And if your email client doesn't have good filtering, get a hold of one. I mean, I have all my blog responses filtered into one folder automatically. I have my social responses into another, a video responses into another. I mean, they're automatically organized so that not everything is sitting in my inbox. When I want to look at my social responses, I flip through that. When I go, so you can slice and dice it like, you know, a million different ways. The bottom line is your inbox needs to be clean. And if it's not clean, you need to take stock at what you're doing and set up filtering, take a different approach with how you send email, how you respond to email, and how you keep that inbox completely managed. I'm curious if anybody else has any inbox tweaking tips beyond that. Maybe you know some pretty cool tools that you might be able to share with the rest of the community. Feel free to leave those tools, suggestions, possibly as a follow-up in this message or to this particular post, the video or the blog post that corresponds with it. Or if you have any other GTD tips, getting things done beyond email, you know, let me know what you think. My email address is chris@pirillo.com. I do read all my email. I respond to most of it. I do not respond to all of it, just so you know. And if it's, you know, a topic that I think is worth talking about, I'll talk about it, whether it's related to tech or not. The chat room is usually, well, it doesn't matter what we say. Inevitably, it will come back to the topic of tech. Technology touches every part of our lives. And I can't imagine keeping track of tasks on physical paper or notebooks anymore. Ponzi still likes doing that. I do not. I need to have everything digitized. My inbox is my task list. That's how I use it. I love it. I love email. I do. I am probably an email addict even to this day. You know, well over a decade later, after I started using email back in 1992. I've been using email that long. Yikes. So anyway, you're welcome to swing by the chat room. If you'd like to talk tech, share some tips and tricks, we're waiting for you. So what are you waiting for? We're at live.pirillo.com. We'll see you later.